With thanks to Draftstars, Australia's #1 daily fantasy platform for your NFL daily fantasy. I'm Smatho. Here's Tom. We are back for week 12 of the NFL season. If I got the wrong overlay there, let's bring that up. Welcome to you, Tom. Obviously, we've had some NFL action already this week with Thanksgiving, and obviously last week as well. How you been going those last two last slates?
Yeah, morning, Smatho. Last week, I can't even remember what happened last week, to be honest. Nothing too special. Thanksgiving was actually a really fun slate. About halfway through, I thought I was all over it, and then, as usually happens, just faded away as the last game came into action. So, yeah, it was good fun.
Yeah, so it was good fun. That Thanksgiving slate was a little bit of a hard watch, especially when we lost Swift early. We lost Waller, which I had a lot of Waller that day, and then I think I ended up having donuts with Godwin and things like that. So it wasn't much of a day for me this week. But hey, more action this week. Now, before we look to this week, I was going to have a little shout out to last week's winner. And here is Nexus, who scored 201.7 fantasy points for his wonderful side here. Jammed in the cheap running backs, got into the premium wide receivers, and then a really great stack with the Packers and the Vikings game there.
Yeah, it's an amazing stack. Obviously, Jefferson and Valdez-Scantling both very low owned. It's like the secondary piece of the stack and the bring back. That was pretty much all this lineup needed to get to the top. All four of those parts of that stack went pretty close to the ceiling, so that's very hard to beat. And obviously the cheap running backs were good. Tyreek Hill, nothing wrong there, and then didn't really need much from the defense.
No, he didn't much. So if we look at the exposures from last week, Jeff Wilson at 55% busted for us. Ingram is fine. Tyreek Hill just got there, I would say, but there's some pretty low numbers from the chalk here from over 30% owned.
Yeah, and Jeff Wilson as well kind of started all right. I thought he looked on track to get the workload, and not sure what happened there in the second half. That game just kind of got out of hand, I guess. Other than that, yeah, like nothing amazing from the chalk. There's a few pieces there that didn't hurt you too much, but that wasn't the way to win it.
No. So if you end up looking at the top scorers, Jonathan Taylor. Did you have any pieces of him last week, or do you think, no, that's me done?
Yeah, I think 0 for me. So
yeah.
Right, but you look at the winning lineup, you didn't have to have him somehow.
No, because no one really had him. But yeah, Jefferson Rogers, at 4%, and there's 76 points there. So well done to you, Nexus. That's a fantastic kind of stack there. And especially with this week with less games on the slate, I think there'll be a bit of a theme looking at your teams this week. So let's move on to week 12. 10 games only because of the Thanksgiving slate. We have 7 early and 3 late. We're still at 5 a.m. for the start. $30,000 prize pool. Now, this week, as I said, with 10 games, less games to look at, but I'm liking this betting board this week. Look at the spreads and the totals here. 53 obviously is the highlight there for the Buccaneers and the Colts. 49 points for the Vikings and the 49ers. And then everyone else is around that mid-40s. So, obviously, the 2 games that stand out for you.
Yeah, so obviously that Bucs-Colts game, and the thing I like about that game is you kind of know how the teams will play. They won't let each other run the ball much, which might make Jonathan Taylor interesting this week. But I think, there's a lot there for the passing games in that one. And then there's plenty of others that are, if you want to stay away from the chalky game, maybe the Chargers I don't mind the look of. Vikings I always don't mind the look of them. Maybe even that Rams Packers game is kind of the late game hammer might be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Speaking of interesting, your Saints were no good last week, but my call on the unders in the Browns game came through. Afterwards, the weather affected that one. So, who are you looking for this week for week 12?
For about the third time in the last 4 weeks, I'm going to take the Vikings. $2.50. I don't know. There's something about them that I just like. And 49ers are going pretty well, but I don't think they're that much better than the Vikings, so we'll see what happens.
All right. You like the Vikings. I'm going to back in the Bucks, actually, at -3. I think they're a little bit better offense. No, minus a couple of guys, but I think they can cover the -3 against the Colts. All right. Now, let's look at the all-important injuries for Week 12. We find out there are actually more guys that are out than in this week. So, major ones are Antonio Brown, AJ Brown, and Michael Carter. They're all out. Flacco's got COVID. Jeremy McNichol, Sterling Shepard, and Jordan Howard are also out as well. Kadarius Toney and Corey Davis are still doubtful. And then there's a questionable list. The majority of these guys are actually on track to play. So Patterson, Barkley, Harris, Jones, Mitchell, Stevenson, and Hunter Henry. So I think, Tom, with a lack of injuries there that we are waiting on news on, I think the value is kind of disappeared on this slate.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, it was looking like maybe Jeff Wilson again, maybe A.J. Dillon, a few other options, but that's kind of looking unlikely now. So that's a good thing. Just means we get to actually decide who's actually going to have a good game this week instead of who's too cheap kind of thing.
Correct. So let's have a look at Week 12 Draftstars contest as I bring up the Draftstars lobby. And as always, we go through position by position, and we start here at quarterback. Now, we've already highlighted that Tom Brady's Bucks are in a great spot at 13,860. But I also look at who are the dual threats here. And there's not many here. We've only got Jalen Hurts at 13,820 and Cam Newton there at 12,720. Are those the three that kind of stick out for you for the field purposes?
Yeah, I think so. I think those are the obvious ones that will project pretty well. And yeah, in good spots, have the skill set. So, and there's no expensive quarterbacks this week really to consider. So they just move to the top of the pile.
So Brady's been he's been fine. He's obviously got a great ceiling there at +30 on numerous occasions here. 20.3 last week against the Giants with 2 touchdowns. Are you worried about his interceptions? He's starting to chuck to the other team lately.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a wobble, but as if Tom Brady's going to keep doing that. I don't think we should worry about it too much. Just kind of expect him to get back to somewhere near his normal level. And obviously, like I said, I think the Bucks will be throwing it a lot, and he's still got only 2 or 3 guys to throw it to, so that helps with the stack.
Now, the next guy I want to ask your thoughts is Jalen Hurts. Looks like nearly his highest score this season. It was a 31.2 earlier in the year, but 30.8 there last week. Still rushing it. The pass yards, you're not going to get the 200, 300 plus there, but 3 rushing touchdowns last week. So do you reckon his ability against the Giants could mean that he will be more red zone dependent on his rushing than his passing?
Yeah, I suppose it's pretty likely, and maybe we shouldn't be chasing him the week after running it in 3 times. But yeah, he's kind of like maybe the second best cash play, I think, just because his floor is pretty good. Other than that little dip in the middle there, so he's good value, but there's probably some better GPP options, I think.
Yeah, true. Now, obviously, you weren't really warm on Cam Newton last week after I just suggested, hey, he might be a bit better for the run. And then obviously he peeled off a 26.2. Draftstars have him at 12,720. Is that a little bit still more expensive than you like?
I think I have to eat my words a bit. I probably need to go back and watch the highlights of last week's game and get a bit better opinion on this. But yeah, he's obviously in play now. He's their guy. Seems like they're kind of just basing their offense around him once again. So, yep, we'll go with him. But I did say in my article, McCaffrey, the obvious stack partner, and with his price, it makes it a little bit harder to get there, I think.
Yes, it does. Okay, anyone below Cam Newton you're looking at this week? It's not really an expiring set of quarterbacks here. I mean, Kirk Cousins is great in great spots, but he can bust you as well with below 15 performances there. Daniel Jones, we've always been pumping his tires, but just doesn't seem to be getting it done. But he's got no receivers this week, likely. But he's there at 11,870. Jimmy G maybe at 11,640 with Deebo Samuel going absolutely cocoa bananas this year. Any others there that I should be considering in the pool this week?
I mean, maybe we could have a look at Tyrod Taylor. But yeah, that's about as good as it gets down the bottom. I do like Kirk Cousins, obviously. I'm on the Vikings, so I think that's probably the best shout other than the top three.
All right, fair enough. I reckon you just stick to the top there and go with the field here. If you can get a fly on someone lower, then you've done well. All right, running back. McCaffrey's 21,780. What's the go there?
They obviously watched us last week when we said, keep getting on him till he gets back to his normal price level. And geez, they just went above and beyond, didn't they?
Yeah. Can you consider him? Because of the lack of value that we have.
If you can build a lineup where you like the rest of the lineup and you can fit him in at the top, I'm happy to do it. But yeah, that would be very, very difficult to do, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So Miami is a pretty good spot for him, and that massive week's coming. So try and find a way to do it if you can, I guess.
Okay. All right. Have a go. If you can get him in clicking first, and if you build a team that looks okay, then put it in. If not, start again. Yeah. Jonathan Taylor is the next available at 17,880. Look, we've already discussed how he went absolutely bananas last week, but those previous scores there are actually really good. Do you find that price to be okay for him, or actually a good target?
Well, I think you just about have to call him the best running back in the game at the moment, based off the last couple of months. And yeah, so I think the price is kind of fair. Obviously, the matchup's a bit tricky. The Bucks have the reputation of stopping the run, especially this week when they'll probably know that's what they need to do just to shut the Colts down. So that's the main concern. But yeah, I do think the $4,000 gap to McCaffrey is a little wide.
All right, let's talk about other options if you can't get to these two guys above here. Barkley's on track to play, so don't worry about Devontae Booker at the 8K this week. I do like a bit of Joe Mixon against the Steelers. Seems to be very consistent in these last three games, over 20 points at 13,960. Look, Henderson's price is actually really good, but he's out of he's not getting much work there for the Rams, and I think that could become a bit of a passing shootout as well. Letty, there's 11,980. I feel that he might get some more work soon. And then Aaron Jones. Now he's on track to play here at 11,320. Is it a case now that he's lost a bit of work to AJ Dillon that would be more of a committee kind of style, or can Jones take back over the lead role as a running back if he plays?
Yeah, I think it will be a split workload, but Jones should go straight back to being the leader of that split. Obviously he's a lot cheaper than we normally get him. I usually don't like to play him around that 14,000, 15,000 mark because he doesn't often go over 25. But yeah, if news looks good that he's kind of good to go, could be maybe a 1 or 2% type play at a very cheap price. So worth considering.
Now, I want to talk about the Jet situation. With no more Michael Carter, he's done for the year. Ty Johnson is obviously the next one up at 8,160, and then there's Tevin Coleman as well at 8,000. Look, it's Houston. It is Houston. They could. I'm just not sure. Is it worth a flyer on either of these two?
Houston are good now, aren't they? Yeah, it feels like Ty Johnson should be the one. He's kind of looked all right, I think, with the workload that he has gotten. So it feels like it should be him, but it also just feels like, maybe Tevin Coleman with the throwback week ruins the chalk Ty Johnson spot.
Yeah, fair enough. I wouldn't be going overboard, but yeah, it's worth a consideration. Any other spots here around the cheap here? You're writing up Jeff Wilson at 9,000. You're going to give him another go?
That was before the Eli Mitchell being good to go, so it's pretty tough to do that now.
No, you can't.
Maybe a dart. I don't mind Gaskin again. Tougher matchup this week, but he's still kind of getting it done, and the price isn't moving. So, yeah, I think he's pretty good.
Excellent. All right. Was there any others that we need to let the viewers know before we move on?
I was going to say, I haven't talked up the Broncos for a while, so I was going to say, getting late in the season, maybe it's time to take a flyer on Javonte Williams having a bit of a breakout.
There you go. There's your sneaky one for the week, 9,110. I look forward to talking about it next week. All right. Wide receiver. Yeah, it's pretty clear that you really want to be considering Tampa Bay options in your stacks this week, especially if you have Brady. Mike Evans at 14,020. Chris Godwin's price just doesn't seem to budge at 12,670. I mean, you can look easily at the form and see that Godwin is more of a better selection than that. They don't really run a third receiver here since Antonio Brown is out. Possibly Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson there, but you really want to be focusing on the top two there.
Yeah, one of those spots where it should be hard for it to go too far wrong. Yeah, good spot, too cheap, big workload. Yeah, what can go wrong, really? Plenty of things.
What can go wrong? Now, speaking of what went wrong, also we were pretty high on the Bengals last week, and this is probably a good spot for us to go back, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the matchup will scare people away, and obviously a bit of a letdown last week, despite a big win. So, yeah, I think it's probably a good spot to go back. Chase still has one of the best kind of outputs in the season, even though it's kind of rocks or diamonds a little bit with him. But, yep, 3 down weeks. Why not keep betting on the bounce back?
Maybe Tyler Boyd there, maybe at 9,000 if you're looking for a second Bengal there. He seems to be getting targets, not many yards after catch kind of thing. But if you're looking for a cheapish 10 to 15 point kind of play, I'm not sure that won't win your GPP, but he's there at 9,000. And then let's talk about the Giants. We've done this a few times throughout the season here, where they just simply can't get any bodies on the park. So Golladay is there. He's at 10,020. Shepard is out. Slayton is there at 7,120. Tony is doubtful at 10,390. Like, even the guys who came to replace him, such as John Ross, they're also questionable as well. So I do like a bit of Slayton. I know there is absolutely nothing there over the weeks, but at 7,000, possibly lying up in the slot, is that something I can consider?
Yeah, I quite like him as well. Not sure exactly what role they'll end up all playing with the moving parts there, but he's good for a couple of deep balls. Don't mind the matchup. Yeah, and then Golladay, I mean, I don't feel good about that at all. But he does have that 20-point game, so yeah, maybe. But doesn't seem like a great idea.
Not a great idea. The other spot I want to talk about is actually at the Titans. So now AJ Brown is gone. He's been put on injury reserve. So look at the value that we got here. Chester Rogers is now at 6. Nick Westbrook-Yakine is at 8,270, and look, everyone else is banged up. So this looks like a good spot to target.
Yeah, it might be the way to afford McCaffrey kind of thing. I don't think they're amazing plays, but you get 10 points out of them, especially Chester Rogers. I think Des Fitzpatrick is the third option there that might be in a similar kind of situation. 10 points out of either of them is probably enough.
Just they're done. The Browns, they got no top 2 receivers. They don't have the King Henry anymore. That's grim times if you're a Titans fan. Now also let's look at the top of the board. Cooper Kupp's there at 19,290. It could be a great shootout there with the Packers if he gets going. Same with Adams at 18,130. If you're not going McCaffrey and you found a couple of cheap receivers, is there any of these up top 5, top 6 that you like up here?
Well, continue to like Debo. Even in a down week last week, still kind of got 16 points. So, yeah, I still think he's probably my pick of the middle tier. Obviously, Godwin's down there as well. Chase. I think the rest of them are all fine. Keenan Allen's really kind of knocking out solid scores every week. You can play any of those guys, but Debo is probably my pick from the top few.
Yeah, I like Debo. I actually love Allen as well. He seems to just taken over those targets and receptions now from Mike Williams. Look, when he's getting 12, 8, 9 catches, hitting 100 yards, I think you can't go wrong there with 14,350. All right, tight end time. So we've got a couple of good options to start here. George Kittle's at 12,990. Kyle Pitts at 10,980. And then we drop away into the 9 to 8 and 7,000s. So we don't have, those kind of big plays, but the top of the board looking okay for you this week?
I'm not feeling too excited about Kittle. Maybe it's just comparing him to the $5,000 Kittle we had a few weeks ago. I feel like he's playing well, but maybe his absolute true ceiling just isn't quite up to that price at the moment, especially because the Vikings are going to win. So it kind of makes me look at Kyle Pitts and say, he can give us 30 points. Jaguars match up really good. We have to believe that ancient Matt Ryan can hook up with a rookie tight end and get the job done, but it has happened a couple of times, so don't feel too bad about that one.
Okay. Going further down the board, also you love Dallas Goedert every week. You seem to be putting in the article every week on Daily Fantasy Rankings, so he's there at 8,700. I mean, there hasn't been a score over 13 for a few weeks now, so he's pretty touchdown dependent. Depends if old Hurts actually passes to him.
Yeah, I think it's just easier at tight end just to have one guy and just every week one guy, so you don't have to think about trying to sort everyone out. But obviously, I love that he's the guy now that Zach Ertz is gone, so that's why I keep going to him. But Jalen Hurts does seem to be a bit of a problem with the way he plays. I think I saw him miss him wide open in the end zone last week. So I do think the big score's there. Things just have to go right. And it's a good matchup again. So he is slightly my pick ahead of a bunch of other decent picks in that range.
Now, speaking of this range, it's actually a really good range here because we've always been on Kasicki, but he hasn't been doing much in the last 4 weeks. So he's there at 8,940. And then below him, Rob Gronkowski is at 8,220. So the reports are that he's actually healthy again. He's good to go. He's been practicing. So I don't mind that if you want to include that in your Brady stacks. So there is 8,000. And then my man, Pat Frymouth, he actually had a shocker last week. Absolute shocker. He got so many targets. He caught 4 balls for 11. He got a touchdown, but he kept on dropping the damn thing. So he's there at 8,080. They're kind of in my pools. I don't think there's anyone else underneath that, unless you do have anything underneath that 8K range.
I was going to ask, did Eric Ebron get injured again last week? I think possibly that did happen. So yep, that does make Frymouth a little more appealing as well. Under that, I mean, I don't know. Dan Arnold's been kind of a dependable option, except for that 0. And yeah, I was thinking about Ingram. I was looking at Ingram this morning, just like maybe he's the answer to what's going on at the Giants. Maybe a Slayton, Ingram, Daniel Jones stack.
Yeah, if you're doing like a Philly stacking, you can almost do a bring back of Ingram.
Yeah.
If they keep that going around. But yeah, I would say look at that range here between Gesicki and Frymouth, if not Kittle and Pitts, your go-to there. And finally, we are looking at defensive special teams. Well, look at the Texans up there. Look at them go. 5,990 against the Jets. Remarkably, they're actually a good selection this week.
Yeah, somehow they were my pick for the article. Maybe more just because it's, every other week we're targeting the Texans, and now they may be the best play. Obviously, I don't know what's happened with the pricing here. I guess it's just not many good spots this week for defense.
No, just like the spreads are all small this week, so they had to kind of tighten up the pricing. So
yeah, they continue to do a good job with that pricing, but it just makes it very hard to pick someone. We've talked up a few options from the Giants-Eagles game. I was also considering just saying play the defense from that game and leave everyone else alone. It's such a mess. So I do think that's an option. Obviously, both quarterbacks can have some stinkers, so don't mind that one.
Don't mind that one. I don't actually mind that as well. Giants, I might take a fly on the bring back of the Giants just in case they do strengthen their defensive line. Possibly not much of attack there. But yeah, Texans. I do like the Texans this week. Captain Zach Wilson, and obviously the Patriots there. They've got an absolutely great matchup against the Titans, who have got no players anymore. So they are probably the options. But if not, the pricing is very condensed. So yeah, you can sprinkle this week. I wouldn't exactly just go 2 or 3. Just if you're playing more than 10 lineups, just try and sprinkle across, because you've got we're all in that 5K range there. All right, so that's position by position for this week. 10 games, not as many as usual. So as we jump into the player pool for this week. So this week, Brady, Hurts, Newton, and Herbert. I think they're no-brainers for this week. Taylor, Johnson, Gaskin, Wilson. I'm going back to. I've gone to Mixon, and maybe Cook if he can get it going. Wide receiver, Evans, Godwin, Chase, Higgins. If Pittman can get going against the Bucks, Allen, Slayton, and Westbrook Akini. Over the page, I've gone Pitts and Godet with Gronkowski and Frymouth, and the Eagles, the Texans, and the Panthers are my special teams in the pool. All right, Tom, there we go. That's week 12 of the NFL. As I said, lack of value is going to mean that you're going to spread your ownerships around this week.
Yeah, and we've had probably 2 weeks in a row where the chalk hasn't hit. I think we're just at that point of the season where things are unpredictable, and the pricing's a bit more evened out. So just play who you like. Try and get away from the chalk a bit if you can, I think.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for your thoughts for this week. We look forward to seeing you, all of our viewers, next week for week 13. Give us a bit of a like on the way out. Share the video, and make sure you get to dailyfantasyrankings.com.au for all your Tom's thoughts for this week. If not, draftstars.com.au for your daily fantasy needs, and we'll see you next time on the Draftstars NFL Show. Catch you later.
Thank you.